Okay, we are missing Bob Hamburger, um, our chairperson, and Carol Lee, our vice chairperson, has requested that I run this individual meeting, so I'm going to go about doing it the best I can. So the first thing on our agenda, I'm going to call to order the Andover Charter Revision Commission special meeting for Thursday, July 11th, 2024 at 6:05 p.m. The members that are in attendance are Karen Mador, Carol Lee, Patricia Billings, and Jeff McGuire. So we have a quorum of the 7 members. We are going to move to public speak, and Shannon Loudon is our member of the public. Hi, Shannon.
Good evening. Thanks, Jeff. Real quickly, I'm here to listen, but the only thing I wanted to say is, well, I understand that you may not have wanted to publicize it until after Dennis had reviewed it. This is the 3rd meeting at which I've asked that whatever has already been voted on by the commission and what you're considering be posted publicly. And I think it's getting to the point of being really critical, given that you're having your public hearing next week. So I will just put in that request one more time. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Dennis O'Brien, you are the only other member of the public, and I'm assuming you're going to participate enough in this meeting. Do you need to state anything?
No,
Okay.
not at this time.
Okay, we're going to move on to item 3, approval of minutes. We're going to skip that item, and we're going to move on to item 4, discussion and possible action upon any charter revision issue. At our previous meeting, we reviewed the documents prepared by the chairman and the vice chairman related to the items that were approved, the whole charter, and then Attorney O'Brien had prepared an initial draft, and I am going to share my screen so that we can see both of these items. So I just want to make sure, which screen am I sharing? Are you seeing the draft and the charter revision? Somebody says yes or no.
Yes.
Okay. So we're seeing this draft, which is the document that we were preparing based upon what we had voted on and gone through. And on the right side is the Charter Revision Commission draft report for July 11th. So Dennis has been working in conjunction with Carol to get this prepared. So as we go through it, the wording in the beginning of the top of this is Dennis. So we're down to this section 105. So as Dennis is going to say, wording underlined in blue is proposed to be added to the charter as revisions. Wording or any reference section that is stricken in red are proposed to be deleted from the charter. So we're going to move down to on the left document, which is our document. So Bob had done this at the last meeting, and I thought it was very helpful for at least me to go through this. So the first change that we had voted on was related to the minor ordinance section. So this is the wording that we gave to Dennis, and then Dennis came through and prepared this. So this section here that I'm highlighting will reference to this section that is here. So I'll read Dennis's section so everybody can be okay with it. Any ordinance enacted as a minor ordinance prior to the deletion of this general provision on the effective date of the November 5th, 2024 charter revision amendments shall continue to remain in place effective until thereafter repealed or amended by the Board of Selectmen. So that is just letting everybody know that all the ordinances in effect would stay in effect. Anybody have any problem with that? If you do, just check me and say, Jeff, we need to make an adjustment or we need to change, and then Dennis can jump in and tell us what we're doing. So is that okay with everybody? All right. So I'm going to move down the document on the left. So we had gotten to section 203, town officers general election. So this is related to the timing of the election. in Dennis's draft report, he goes 2023 town officers, and so section A, and he's saying beginning on November 2nd, 2027, and continuing every four years thereafter in the biennial municipal elections to be held on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. There shall be elected a board of selectmen. So in this section, it's basically moving our elections to a November timeline. Dennis, I will ask you a question because you and I I started to ask these questions, like, is in the biennial municipal election accurate under this section of the general election because it is a 4-year term?
Yeah, you're still having a biennial election, but the
Correct. We have it
selectmen-
every 2 years, but every 4 years, the board of selectmen will go up.
Right, and
Okay.
it specifies that the selectmen are 4-year term.
Okay, no problem. So anybody have any problem with that section in that terminology?
The only thing though, Dennis, I think Jeff is right because it should be 2029 because that's when they're. Oh, no, you're right. It's 2027. Never mind. Get it.
Yeah.
I'm all right.
Fine, you're skipping 2 years. I
Yeah.
hope I'm still around then, 2029, wow.
It's all right. So
Okay.
2027 is in this section, and this is just a housekeeping issue. This has nothing to do other than moving it from May to what the charter had originally said to moving it to November. So we're just stating November. So, okay.
Right.
In the board, the commission's document, we talked about, this is another section related to timing in May to November. And so section 203B regarding election of the town clerk is repealed in its entirety and replaced as filed pursuant to the option set forth in general statute section 9-185 as fully set forth in Dennis. This term should be below, I believe. We need a B
Oh,
there.
yeah, and the below. All
Okay.
right, I made a typo in there this afternoon, that's
fine.
right.
We're gonna find these. In the below
Got it.
chart section 702.0. So Dennis, I'm
Yeah.
expecting you to change that and it will be reviewed, or do you want me to change it? And send it,
I just changed my copy, so.
type in. So in the below
BELOW.
charter section 702.0, beginning with the November 2nd, 2020 section 27 election, the town clerk shall no longer be elected. All right, so that goes into our decision to make the town clerk an appointed position. Anybody, any questions or problems with that section? No. Okay. Then it goes to C. At the biennial municipal election to be held on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November 2025, and every 2 years thereafter, thou shalt be elected members of the following boards, commissions, and agencies for the terms specified herein. And the remainder of that section remains in place. So what that's doing is moving from May to November, and then all of the people and like the Board of Finance that will come up for the next election in 2025 we will have a November election in accordance with the state on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. Assuming everybody's good there. Okay, so we're going to go down to D. So these are all on the left side. These are all of the groups that are elected, all the positions that we have elected. So Board of Finance, Board of Assessment Appeals, Planning and Zoning, Board of Appeals, Board of Education, Fire Commission. We get down to D. And this is the terminology that we had provided to Dennis, and this is what he's writing in the draft. D, all terms of office, except as otherwise provided in this charter, shall commence on the third Tuesday after the first Monday of November. Elected town officials shall hold office until their successors have been chosen and qualified. So what's that is saying, and Carol, just make sure we're right, is the first Monday after the first Tuesday after the first Monday, so that would be the first Tuesday is the election, let's say. And then you have 2 more Tuesdays, and then the individuals hold their office or start to take their office on that 3rd Tuesday in November. Is that accurate? Okay, okay.
That was the suggestion that you all made at the last meeting, to change that to 3rd Tuesday, because I had it in terms that were not as clear. So
Yeah.
you clarified that for me.
Yep, so 3rd Tuesday after the first Monday of November. Okay, we're good. All right, and then on the left side, we didn't make any changes until we got to 210. And this goes for early voting in 210, and this was the terminology we provided to Dennis. The dates and hours of early voting shall be conducted as prescribed by state general statutes. Section 210, the dates and hours of early voting shall be conducted as prescribed by the Connecticut general statutes, and Dennis included as amended. So if the state makes adjustments, we just follow the state protocol. Everybody good with that? Okay. Then we go down to chapter 3, the town meeting, 301. So this is where we're starting to talk about the ordinance sections and information. And 301, the legislative authority of the town shall be shared by the Board of Selectmen and the town meeting. And then we're going through what we left in. And we said in section 304, and it's enumerated, there's additional information enumerated. I might as well just read all this so everybody hears it out loud. And if you have a problem or a question, please speak up. The legislative authority of the town shall be shared by the Board of Selectmen and the town meeting. The town meeting shall have authority for final approval of those actions of the town as herein enumerated in section 304. The Board of Selectmen shall have legislative authority for all matters not specifically enumerated herein hereafter in section 304, including but not limited to the authority to approve and enact, repeal, and modify all ordinances after a public hearing, and also those powers enumerated in section 402 and those powers formally assigned to the town meeting per section 304D of this charter. Section 301A, elector authority to repeal any ordinance legislatively enacted by the Board of Selectmen. So this is where we were trying to go through and provide ample opportunity for anyone to question a decision by the Board of Selectmen and repeal an ordinance. So any action of the Board of Selectmen to enact, repeal, or modify any ordinance except any emergency ordinance enacted per section 406 of this charter shall be subject to being repealed by way of a special referendum in the following manner. And just so everybody's understanding, we did during COVID, we did an emergency ordinance. We were required to. So just so everybody understands that did come into play, and that was done during COVID. And it was
the play ordinances, they can only be in place for 60 days.
Yeah, 60
So
days. And we had to renew that, I think, 3 or 4 times.
Yep.
During that
Yep.
timeline. Okay. So the Board of Selectmen shall send a written town-wide mailer promptly notifying the town electorate in detail of any such legislative action by the board. The mailer shall be sent to the office of the town clerk, where the date of its receipt shall be noted on the public record. So what that's saying is, if the Board of Selectmen wants to repeal or do anything related to an ordinance, we need to send out a town-wide mailer, and the clock does not start ticking until everyone receives that, and the town clerk's office receives it, stamps it, and that's the date for petitioning starting. So nothing ever happens unless you get a mailer. So then 2, to seek repeal of any such legislative action by the Board of Selectmen, a petition must be filed with the office of the town clerk within 20 days after official receipt by the office of the town clerk of the townwide mailer from the Board of Selectmen. To be valid, any such petition must be timely filed by 5% or 50 of the electors of the town, whichever number is less, as determined by the latest official registry of the Registrar of Voters. The petition must also conform with the requirements of Connecticut General Statutes Section 7-9, except as provided herein, and be signed in ink, requesting that such ordinance be submitted to the voters in a special referendum. So everybody would have 20 days to sit there and file once the mailer is received by the town clerk. So this gives us time between the date that any ordinance would go into effect and when someone would be able to push any given ordinance to special referendum. So item 3, the town clerk shall within 7 days of receipt of any such petition certify to the Board of Selectmen whether the petition included a sufficient number of valid signatures and was legally consistent with the other requirements of this provision. If it is not legally sufficient in every way, the town clerk shall so inform the selectmen who shall declare the petition invalid, and the ordinance shall take effect on the 45th day following approval of the Board of Selectmen. So we had requested 45-day delay between the issue of doing an ordinance and the application or the that ordinance being put into effect. That would give the petitioners enough time, and it would cross 2 Board of Selectmen meetings. So if the Board of Selectmen needed to reconsider their ordinance, they would have the ability to do that. Okay. If the petition contains sufficient valid signatures if the petition contains sufficient valid signatures and is otherwise legally sufficient, the effective date of the ordinance shall be set aside, and the selectmen shall, in cooperation with the Office of the Secretary of State and state law, schedule a special referendum to be conducted simultaneously with the election, regularly scheduled to be held on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in the month of November, or with the next regularly scheduled referendum immediately following validation of such petition. So that section means that it can either be put on the ballot in November or put on the ballot in May. And that would allow us to not waste any time if we needed to do this. So the ordinance shall stand approved by item 5. The ordinance shall stand approved by the referendum unless a majority of the electors voting shall have voted in favor of repealing such ordinance, provided, however, that at least 10% of the registered voters of the town shall have voted on the matter. Any ordinance not so repealed shall take effect on the day following the referendum. Okay, does anybody have any problems with the petitioning process and everything that we had addressed? That I'm pretty sure that it lines up with everything that had been written in the emails that I provided back to everybody on the meeting before and this meeting, the changes that were made. So anybody have any problem with this section or any changes? Carol, we good?
Good.
Okay. Okay. So on our other side, we come into section 303, annual town budget meeting. So in yellow, we were going to delete the annual town budget meeting for the consideration of the budget shall be held in the second week of April in each year. The adoption of the budget shall be pursuant to the provisions of section 803 of the charter. So we were doing this to align our dates with the RAM budget referendum so that we could have one referendum. So this is our attempt to try to get everything to line up so that we were only having an initial round of budget voting. So Carol, does that line up with your dates?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, section 304, special town meeting. This is the section where we were trying to level out reasons to get to the amounts of money to get to a town meeting. So under 304 special town meeting, providing that all other procedures and or prerequisites, financial and otherwise, as delineated in the charter have been met, special town meetings shall be called by the Board of Selectmen and shall follow section 302 of this charter for consideration of the following items. A, sorry. Oh, I screwed that up. There we go. The issuance of bonds and all other forms of financing exceeding $50,000 in value, the terms of which are in excess of 1 year. So $50,000, we raised that. We raised that value. I believe it was 2,500 before, wasn't it? Where was that? Carol, in your charter, like where in 304 was that? What was that we replaced? Or was it 0? We might have just said all forms of financing.
There was
had
no
put it
figure.
in. There
Yeah,
was no
no,
figure.
there's no,
Okay, so there was,
In G,
no-
it was in G, the 2,500.
it's in G, okay. So there
Yes.
was the issuance of bonds or any form of financing, the town wanted to go to public meeting for any debt at all. So we were putting in
Right.
not to exceed $50,000. Okay. B, any supplemental appropriation which exceeds 1% limit set forth in section 805B, excluding any bonds or notes issued subject to section 810D. So we moved this from 1/2 of 1% to 1%. And then this is where Adrian wanted to sit there and put some limitations on this. Any supplemental appropriation which exceeds or is equal to 2.5% of the current year budget, excluding the amount appropriated for the Region 8 Board of Education and approved by the Board of Finance, shall go directly to referendum pursuant to section 803 of this charter. So that was the 2.5% was the limit that it comes somewhere between to close to $200,000 if a board of selectmen and the board of finance want to approve something like the mower that we did through a special town meeting. This is moving it to a referendum to get approved by all the voters in town. So that was the exact wording that we had here. Okay, so D, this is the creation, consolidation, modification, or abolition of any permanent board, commission, department of charter, and this going to town meeting. This has been deleted. E,
be assigned to the Board of Selectmen.
yeah.
The whole thing.
E, leases and or lease options in excess of $50,000. So leases and or lease options in excess of $50,000 to which the town, including the local Board of Education, is a party, which involve a term or obligation in excess of 1 year, excluding leases of personality. Dennis, can you just explain personality for everybody?
Personalty, that'd be personal property as opposed to real estate.
Okay,
Like,
so
like
so
copy machines.
so if the school, just so we're clear, I want everybody to be clear. So if the school wants to rent a copier,
Right,
it's not included.
right.
Okay, just so we're all clear. So if equipment is to be rented or leased and it's in excess of $50,000, we don't need to go to town meeting for that. If
Right.
it's in the budget and it's been approved, just want everybody to be clear on what this is. This is really, I believe the way they were trying to structure this is leasing of like what would not be personality.
Personalty.
Personality. Just explain that. What would not be personality?
Real estate.
Real estate. Okay. So this whole section is only about real estate. Okay.
Well, that language is all in the current charter.
No, it's in the
The only
current
change-
charter. I'm just trying to make sure that we're aware.
It wasn't added.
Yeah.
It wasn't changed. The only change was to put in excess of 50 grand.
Correct. That's all we are changing, but I'm now looking at this as a resident under trying to understand the charter, and I'm like going, that word always bothered me. So now I understand the word. So what this section here means to me is real estate leases. Because this term here, right here, excluding leases of personality. Sorry. Okay.
It's a legal term.
I know lawyers. I love them.
Yeah,
Okay.
gotta love them.
Gotta love them. F. Any appropriation from the capital and non-recurring expense fund not included in the annual budget which exceeds 1/4 of 1%, 0.025% of the budget as specified in town in section 805B. There's no change to this. So Dennis, why is this in here? Dennis?
What's that?
Section F, there is no change in this section here between the current charter and what we're doing in the draft. Why is this in here
It's just in there for context.
for context?
What I do when I do these things, these draft reports, is I try to leave enough. It's a judgment call. Certain items in there that are not changed, just for context.
Okay, and that's okay. I just wanted everybody to understand we're not
It's
changing. We're not
judgment call.
changing.
It's not.
anything. Yeah.
No, not as far as I know. Not as far as I was.
Yes,
The
we're
impression I
not.
got.
We were not changing that. I just wanted to make sure everybody
Right.
understood we were not changing that.
Next one,
All right.
next one is a big G.
G. Yeah. So this is mine today, and I just after reading this and reviewing this morning, under G, we talk about these are things that we changed. This first 3 words, all right, and this is to go to town meeting. It says here in our charter, the application for or participation in any federal grant or private grant program in excess of $2,500 would need to go to a town meeting. I'm going to ask that we remove the application for or. The reason why I did this today when I read it was because what it's doing is it's saying we need to go, that the board or the Board of Education, or maybe not be the Board of Education, but the town would need to go to a town meeting to apply for a grant. So let's take the case of the Long Hill Grant Bridge Program. If we had done this correctly, which we're not, I'm just letting everybody know, the way I read this is we should have went and applied or asked the town meeting if we could apply for participation in that grant. Now, and when I say Long Hill, we ended up getting Long Hill totally paid for by grant, but in the beginning phases, it was an 80-20 grant. So in reality, we should have gone to the town meeting before we even applied for that grant. And I would ask if we could remove that, and that would be that's new to tonight. I'm going to ask if everybody, we can leave it there, and I will tell you that the town will not be doing that because Eric will be applying for grants, or anybody will be applying for grants and not going to a town meeting to get it approved until we receive the grant. And then we have to go and say, okay, when we receive the grant, so it's the next section that I agree with, the participation in any federal grant, federal, state, or private grant program in excess of $2,500, excluding local and regional Board of Education, which participation shall require the town and or the local Board of Education to contribute in excess of $25,000 to enter into any such grant program. And then we would go to a town meeting and say, are we okay with accepting this grant? So that's the same thing that we just did in town meeting for the $2.9 million grant we received to do the connectivity between the trail and the town complex. So I would make a motion that we remove from section 304G the wording application for or.
I'll second.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, Carol seconded. So any further discussion on those three words? All right, all those in favor of removing those words? Aye. Okay. 4-0. So in this section G, it will now read the participation in any federal, state, or private grant program in excess of $2,500, excluding the local and regional Board of Education, which participation shall require the town and or the local Board of Education to contribute in excess of $25,000 to enter into any such grant programs. Right? So that was the wording that was in here with just removing that. So that's that. H, we'd have to go to town meeting for the discontinuance or abandonment of town roads. We would have to go to I. Sorry, a little housekeeping. Such other matters or proposals as the selectmen in their discretion shall deem of sufficient importance to be submitted to a special town meeting, and we would delete including recommendations by the selectmen for the adoption, modification, or repeal of any ordinance. That was in here. 1 second. That was a removal from Dennis because this, if passed, we would not need, if the section on the ordinances passes, this section would be removed, and that was done by Attorney O'Brien, and that makes sense because if we get the ordinance issue moved, then this would not be required to be in the charter. If it doesn't pass, then this goes back in the charter.
Right.
Is that accurate, Dennis?
That is accurate.
Okay. All right. J, this section was removed. This is about the town ordinances, so the reason why that was removed. 305.
Similar, same reason.
Same reason, yeah. But we knew that one. We had identified that in our document to be deleted. Okay, 305, petition town meetings. This section shall remain intact except that any references to the repealed charter section 304D and 304J shall be deleted. So we put that there. All right. Section 4, Board of Selectmen, 402, general powers and duties. A. Sorry, I keep doing this. I'm going to send this back to Dennis so he can have. Spaces between these. A, to enact, amend, or repeal ordinances, providing that they are not inconsistent with this charter. We're deleting this section and not legally inconsistent with the general statutes of the state of Connecticut. So that is what we put here, and we put not legally inconsistent with the general statutes of the state of Connecticut. B, to enact ordinances creating, consolidating, modifying, or abolishing agencies, commissions, boards, and authorities not otherwise provided in this charter. So to enact and recommend, this was all deleted, creating, consolidating, so that matches up with what we were doing there. And please stop me if I'm going too fast. I don't want to over rush this, but I'm just going through section by section. Section 404, public hearing on and publication of ordinances. This section shall remain intact except that the phrase not covered by Charter Section 105H shall be deleted, and the final sentence in section 404 shall be amended as follows. Every ordinance, unless it shall specify a later date, shall become effective on the 45th day after such publication following its final passage. Dennis.
Yeah,
um,
that's to make it consistent with what you did with, I think we did this 2 days ago.
Yeah, but what I'm reading, as I'm reading it, every ordinance, unless it specifies a later date, I have no problem, shall become effective on the 45th day. And we're saying after such publication, but it's not after the publication, it's after
Enactment. Should be
enactment.
the enactment.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yes,
You're right.
what we did, just so everybody understands, what we did is we said the repeal or the petitioning would have a 20-day window within inside that 45-day window. So
Right.
the thought is the Board of Selectmen gets the document together to get out to the public to say this is an ordinance that we would like to enact. The public then has 20 days to petition. That's all within this 45-day window. So that terminology is not accurate in my mind.
That's that publication word is in the current charter, and that's a good catch by you, because what you've done with the the appeal process from the enactment of ordinances is unique. And I thought at first it was a bit convoluted, but I think it works. But I think in order to make it this consistent with that, you're correct that the word publication in this item and second line from the bottom has to be changed to enactment. And I'd like to know if Carol agrees.
Okay, so you're 404, and we're going back to which one? 30,
I'm trying
301?
to go to 304, our terminology in 304 of when it
When a
it's right here. It's right here. It's this section right here. So Carol, if no one puts forth a petition, right, with valid signatures, it's not valid. We say the ordinance shall take effect on the 45th day following approval of the Board of Selectmen. Right?
Well, there's a publication too, Dennis. Right?
Yeah, I know, but how does that fit in now with this new system you have?
I mean,
My mind boggled by that, Carol.
right now, it's effective the 21st day after the legal notice is published in the newspaper. So we can't overrule that. We would still have to publish that legal. Or can the charter overrule that legal publication?
I would say that is something that the charter can overrule. If you can do what you're doing with the appeals process for appealing from an enactment by the Board of Selectmen, I don't think the state of Connecticut is going to care whether you have a different publication date, given the fact that you've altered the 20. The norm is 20 days. You know that. 21st day it takes effect. And that may be statutory, but that's why I inserted the word up above, legally inconsistent. There are some things that can be inconsistent with state law and other things that cannot. And the one case where this came up and is most notable that everybody points to is the case from Naugatuck, Jeff's hometown, where the Naugatuck put in the bifurcation of the budgets, school and the town budget, even though there was no provision for that in state statute. But they said it was a matter of local concern only, and they allowed the local government of Naugatuck to make that change, and a lot of other towns, of course, have followed suit. So this, in my opinion, off the top of my head right now, I believe that your publication could change, Carol, and you could make the publication probably not until the 45th day. I don't know.
Well, don't we listen? Carol, just so I understand this, because I want to be, if we pass an ordinance, isn't the publication of that ordinance what we would be sending to the residents in the mailer?
Right, so I
No.
was just gonna say that we could publish the legal notice that I would publish in the newspaper. And then
Correct.
we could put except if overruled as provided in section 301A. of
I
this.
like that, Carol. Now you're thinking, that's a good idea. We could publish after 20 days like the statute requires.
Right.
And just put some notice that specifies what our system is, and so it won't be effective until later on, just so we comply with the publication deadline.
Right.
I like
because
that.
It has to be publicized, and then this way, if someone does petition, we have that little clause in there just to cover it.
We don't cover that in the charter because it's state statute, and we don't
Right.
really need to. So as long as we have that understanding, I still think we'd have to change 404. It couldn't be 45th day after publication, because that would stretch it out to 65 days, right?
No, because if there were no petition that was brought forward, right?
Yeah.
Because we're putting that clause in there, so if there's no petition that's brought forth, the ordinance becomes effective the 45th day after the publication. But if it is petitioned, then that 45 days stops ticking
Mhm.
and then starts up after, as it's described and defined in 301A.
Okay, so my question, Carol, is if a board of selectmen approves an ordinance, right? When is that published?
So I usually, right when I get the ordinance, publish it. So if you pass it on a Monday at your meeting and I get the minutes by Tuesday or Wednesday, I then publish that ordinance Friday edition of the River East.
Okay.
Just not the full ordinance, but just an abbreviated version of it, letting them know that full versions are available on the website in the office.
Okay, and if that's the case, I'm okay with that, but then Dennis, you need to revise this information up here. So it's ordinance shall take effect on the 45th day following publication, not approval by the Board of Education, but by the Board of Selectmen.
You're saying this section 404 should say,
No, that section, if Carol is accurate and she's saying that that's accurate, we have to make 301, 301.3 and that 40 accurate. Like they need to jive. So we're saying, and the ordinance shall take effect on the 45th day following approval of the Board of Selectmen. You see what I'm saying? So
But
publication.
that's only if the petition isn't declared legal. Right?
or if there is a petition, don't forget, in most situations, you're not going to get a petition.
Well, let's
Unless,
sit there and say, let's sit there, the petition overrules everything and the clock stops and it goes to referendum. That's the reality of it. But I'm just talking about, I'm just talking about the execution of an ordinance that didn't get petitioned. I'm just trying to line up this language here. This ordinance.
You're right. So this language should be, as I think I said before, without thinking it through to the extent we have now, this language should be 45th day after enactment. I believe it should.
I think it should be 45th day following publication.
Yes.
What do you mean by publication, Jeff?
Okay, so
The
down
mailer?
No. What Carol is saying, Carol has to put it into the paper that an ordinance is going to be enacted in the town. Forget the mailer. The mailer has to deal with the petition,
Right.
right?
Right.
But in this section here, right? In this section
Yeah,
here,
but
what we're saying is the shall become effective on the 45th day after such publication following its passage. So you have to take this wording here, the 45th day after such publication following its final passage, and put it up in this section here.
so you're talking then it could be as many as 65 days.
No, it can't be that long. It can only be.
Yes, it can. Yes, it can. Yes, it can. Because she has, even though she may publish it the next day, but the publication is not required until 20 days.
No, the way the process
Yeah.
would work, I understand what you're saying, but if Carol, and just correct me if I'm wrong, because the Board of Selectmen has a meeting on a Tuesday, and it passes a potential ordinance that Dennis and everybody would be involved in. We would then
Right.
give it to the town clerk, and you would put it in the River East and say, the town of Andover is potentially passing a new ordinance, and the document is available in the town clerk's office, right? That would go in hopefully the next publication,
Hopefully.
hopefully.
Doesn't always happen.
I mean, so what's the worst case scenario? I hound Carol and say, Carol, you got to get this in the River East. It doesn't get there the first week, it gets there the second week, right? I mean,
Well, the worst case scenario, in other towns, they sometimes don't get it in until 20 days after.
and I get it, and we're gonna have to live with that. I mean, that's the Board of Selectmen needs to
And then
work with the
stretch
town
it out
clerk.
to 65 days.
So are you saying now to wait 20 days for me to publish?
No, I want you to publish it
No,
immediately.
No, I'm not saying that, Carol, but okay, that's how much time you have. It's got to be published before the
Right.
21st day.
No, but you're missing,
And
we are the convoluted town. We're putting in a better check and
are.
balance program. We're putting in a better check and balance program. So the way this process should work is Board of Selectmen makes an ordinance decision. The ordinance language is written. Carol receives the ordinance language. That notice is then put into the paper. That's step one, right, Carol? Put into the paper, right?
Yes.
Right, so that
Yeah,
starts,
the
listen,
summary.
Dennis, that starts the 45-day clock. That starts the 45-day clock. And then in conjunction with this, we put a mailer out to all the residents of the town that starts the
Yeah.
petitioning clock.
Right.
So
Right.
can they be
But if
two
you-
separate clocks? So in other words,
Yes,
if the 45-day clock is ticking and the petition is deemed not legal in any way, and it's not valid, then on the 45th day, that ordinance takes effect.
Mhm.
But if the petition is legal, then the 20 days are going to take effect because that 45th day is going to now stop. That clock is going to stop ticking. And the 20 days is going to tick. And then if it is defeated at referendum,
then it takes effect the following day.
takes effect the following day.
So
And
Dennis,
if it's
I agree with Carol and I understand what she's saying. So to me, it's Dennis, just as you used to have 20 days from publication date, we're just saying 45 days from publication,
Yes.
right? But
The norm is that ordinances take effect 21 days after they're enacted.
okay, so
But
right
you have
here,
to, in the interim, you have to publish in the newspaper either the ordinance verbatim, which we don't have to do because we have an ordinance that allows us to do a summary. Okay? You have to publish something in the newspaper saying this ordinance has been passed.
Mhm.
And that is, I think you could just do that anyway and change this from publication to or else you're gonna have ordinances that don't go into effect until 50 days, 55 days, whatever the countdown is of 45 days from the date of publication. Right, Carol? You're gonna get, no matter when the River East publishes it, you're gonna have to count off 45 days if it's not appealed. And you're gonna delay the ordinance even more. Meanwhile, if you put the publication in the paper, as you suggested, Carol, and make it clear that, you know, it won't go into effect if a petition is filed seeking appeal, then, you know, I think if you leave this at publication, then you could have an ordinance going into effect in
Okay,
actuality if it's any number of days, you know, after 45,
and Carol, I can
which I think would be an incredible mess.
I listen, I can understand what Dennis is saying because Carol, the timing of the publication and the petition will be able to fit inside that 45 days,
Right.
Yes.
right? So Dennis, all I'm saying now then, I'm gonna reverse myself. This language here and the ordinance shall take effect on the 45th day following approval of the Board of Selectmen needs to be the language in here on 404.
Yes,
Okay,
yes, or just change publication to enactment. Enactment is the, you know, or you could say enactment by the Board of Selectmen, approval by the Board of Selectmen. Then you don't have a problem. You do your publication in the interim, but it doesn't mess up this 45-day time limit that you have placed on it through your appeal scheme.
does anybody have a problem with that? Because all of the deadlines will fall in place. So if this section here,
I'm going to change it right now on mine. Change publication to approval by the Board of Selectmen.
sorry, I don't want to do that.
Such enactment.
Okay. So you're gonna change,
Following something.
Right. Put it,
so you're gonna sit there and say 45th day following approval of the Board of Selectmen.
right.
Okay, and then those two sections of the charter will line up. And then just so we're all aware, we're all good with this, the way that this operationally should work is the Board of Selectmen passes an ordinance. The ordinance language is provided to the town clerk's office. We then send out a mailer and we put it into the paper at first available opportunity. We put it into the paper that there's an ordinance going to go into effect. And if you'd like the full text, it's available to the town clerk's office. Then the mailer goes out and the petition clock starts. So the petition clock could start on day 10. And they would have till day 30 to get 50 signatures, because that's what it would take. And then that would be within the 45-day window that we would get all
Yes.
this accomplished. Okay. So Dennis, you're going to change this. You're going to change this.
I have better language for this.
Okay.
I just thought about it because the language that follows it is following its final passage. So if we just take out,
If you just make them both line up and say the same thing,
yeah,
45 days
Yeah,
following approval of the Board of Selectmen, I think I would be happy because they would be consistent. And I think everybody else would hopefully be happy they would be consistent.
I think we're there. I think we're there.
Okay.
I'm going to take out after such publication and just leave following its final passage in. That's the final passage from the Board of Selectmen. Following its, we could change final passage to make it clearer of its approval by the Board of Selectmen.
Yes, please. That would be better.
I'm going to do that.
Okay,
Yeah. That was a good discussion.
sorry, I'm sorry.
Well, great minds end up thinking alike.
Well, now that I'm home, I can have these things. So 6:05. So this was put into effect in 1999. So we were trying to get this, except as otherwise specifically provided for in this charter, the terms of all town board members shall be for 2 years and shall commence on the first Monday in July of 2025, and biennially thereafter. All town board members shall be eligible for reappointment and shall continue in office until a successor has been appointed and has qualified. So this was Carol, this was about appointed boards such as the Rec Commission or some of the boards that are non-elected. It's a 2-year term and they just re-up every 2 years. So, and we got rid of July of 1999. So, whoops, I'm sorry, everybody. I didn't put that on mute. I will put that on mute. Okay, we're going down to chapter 7. We don't have anything else on our documents here to here. This is the removal of the elected position. So administrative services 701, sure, at the beginning of this section, 701 deleted with the exception of 7020 town clerk, which is an elected position, but the rest of section 701 will remain in place. Okay. 702. Administrative positions. At the very beginning, let's see, 702 Director of Health. Sorry, Director of Health. This is where we were trying to deal with. We don't always have these individuals as employees. We have them as subcontracted vendors. So the Director of Health, the Board of Selectmen shall appoint a Director of Health as mandated by the state of Connecticut. The rest of this will be deleted. And then in the same way, E, an animal control officer, the Board of Selectmen shall appoint an animal control officer or contract with animal control services. Dennis, on the Director of Health, I'm just going to ask a question, and I'm sorry I'm doing this, but we use Eastern Highland Health District, right?
Yes.
Is that a Director of Health, Carol, or a contracted service? Just a question.
Oh, it's the contracted service with these islands.
And so the Eastern Health High District, in essence, becomes our Director of Health. The
Yeah.
organization becomes our Director of Health. Okay. And Dennis, is that okay? Is that okay? Because we're doing it as mandated by the state of Connecticut.
Yeah, that's the way I see it.
Okay, good. I'm okay with
That's
that.
done. That's done. Just about every place now.
Okay.
Smaller places.
Okay. So now we were doing, this is the town clerk section. 7010. And Dennis, is this, okay, this is, a town clerk. The office of the town clerk shall have permanent status pursuant to option set forth in General Statute Section 9-185, beginning with the November 2nd, 2027 election. The town clerk shall no longer be elected, or rather on or after November 16th, 2027, and every 4 years thereafter, the Board of Selectmen most recently elected in the November municipal election shall on or after 2 weeks following the date of their election by a minimum of 3 votes appoint a qualified person to be the town clerk to work in that capacity beginning on January 2nd of the new year for a term of 4 years, subject to the requirements of Chapter 92 of the General Statutes as amended regarding town clerks. Dennis, the language is fine. There might be a period after as amended. You might want to either make that a comma or as amended.
I think you're right.
Mm,
Gonna change it right now. Okay,
thank you.
got it.
Anybody have any issues with that section?
The only change in that section from last meeting is I added the first sentence, the office of the town clerk shall have permanent status. That was the request that was made last
Yep.
meeting.
I'm good with that. 703. Carol, is that a typo in the current charter? This select?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I just pointed it out, so I fix it when.
Okay,
Yeah.
understood. Finance and taxation, 202. So these sections are all to align our voting in to get to one referendum budget where we vote on both the town and the RAM budget all at once. So section 802 duties on the budget. All new, no later than October 15th, the Board of Finance shall confer with the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Education to discuss the goals and objectives for the upcoming budget. The Board of Finance may suggest a target increase for expenditures for both the general government and Board of Education budgets. However, the target increases shall not be binding with respect to budget submittals. Carol and the team, can we remove increases? Can we just say budget targets? Because I'm just saying, I know it's in the charter and it really won't mean anything, but a future Board of Finance could say we need to go down.
Right, we could do that.
Anybody else have a problem if we just say targets? So it would be the Board of Finance shall confer with the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Education to discuss the goals and objectives for the upcoming budget. The Board of Finance may suggest a target for expenditures for both the general government and Board of Education budgets. However, the targets shall not be binding with respect to budget submittals. Anybody have a problem with that? I think Bob's term was unanimous consent. Is that okay that we remove those?
Yes, that's
Yes.
Okay. Dennis, can you remove increase on both those sentences?
Yep, already did it.
So suggest a target, and in the second one, it's however the targets. Or no, the target.
Oh,
The target, leave it as target. The target shall not the target shall not be binding with respect to budget submittals. Okay.
okay, increases out in both places.
Yes, please.
Already done.
Thank you. B, agency department head, section 802 in the current charter. We're removing 120 days and we're saying at least 150 days before the end of the fiscal year, the head of each department, office, and or agency of the town, supported wholly or in part by town funds, except the Regional Board of Education and the local Board of Education, shall file with the town administrator a detailed estimate of expenditures to be made by that department, office, or agency, and the revenues other than property taxes to be collected thereby in the ensuing fiscal year. Such estimates shall be accompanied by a statement setting forth the services, activities, and work accomplished during the current year and planned for accomplishments for the ensuing fiscal year. The local Board of Education the local Board of Education budget must be submitted to the Board of Finance by February 15th. And that is what we put in here. I don't think there's any problems with that. C, all new. Duties of the town administrator. The town administrator shall review the budget estimates upon completion of the review and not later than 120 days prior to the end of the fiscal year. The town administrator shall present to the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance a proposed budget. In preparing the proposed budget, the town administrator may comment and make recommendations on the budget requests made by various departments, offices, and agencies. So that was this section here. D, there shall be budget review meetings in March, which shall be joint meetings of the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance. A quorum of at least one of the two boards is required to conduct business. Okay. Duties of the Board of Finance, formally select section 802B. And we're saying the Board of Finance shall review the budget estimates with the heads of all town-supported department, offices, and agencies as needed. There's still additional text that's in there. And then it comes, the Board of Finance shall include the estimated budget request of the Regional School District number 8 Board of Education in their recommended budget. E1. Upon completion of the review and not later than 85 days prior to the end of the fiscal year, the Board of Finance shall hold a public hearing on their recommendations, on their recommended budget, excuse me. And that is all to align with what we're trying to get to with one referendum. 803, the annual town budget meeting and referendum. The annual town budget meeting shall be held in the second week of April. And then we're going, the town meeting may make amendments to the proposed budget, provided, however, that the town meeting shall only have the power to reduce or modify, but not increase the budget or any portion thereof. The town meeting may not alter any specified items contained in the budget proposed by the local Board of Education. The town meeting shall adjourn to a referendum to be held on the Tuesday following the first Monday in May. So what that does is that aligns the budget referendums with the RAM referendum. Voting by absentee ballot at the referendum is allowed. Just as a side question, Carol, do we allow, we don't allow absentee ballots. Do we allow absentee ballots in our current referendum?
At the referendums, yes, town meetings, no.
Town meetings, no, okay. All right. So that's A. So B. I'm sorry, that was B. So that was what we said here. The town meeting shall adjourn to referendum to be held Tuesday following, right? Voting by absentee ballot, the referendum is allowed. C is deleted. D is deleted to this point. If the budget is defeated at a first referendum, the budget will be bifurcated into separate votes. This is what was done last budget or last charter revision cycle on the town budget and the local Board of Education budget individually. And the process shall begin again with the Board of Finance as set forth in 802E above and continue until each bifurcated budget is passed. The Board of Finance shall review any rejected budget and present the same or revised budgets to why was that removed? I'm sorry.
To the next referendum, which will be held exactly 2 weeks.
Okay, so we have to get rid of and then.
Okay. Delete and.
Yeah. To the next
Got it.
referendum, which will be held exactly 2 weeks later. If only one of the two bifurcated budgets is passed at referendum, it is final and may be implemented for the new fiscal year, but this process must continue for any failed budget until it is passed. So go to E. After the final adoption of the budget referendum and with consideration of the external budgeting factors, including state appropriations and or the Region 8 Board of Education, the Board of Finance shall meet as soon as possible to set the mill rate for the upcoming fiscal year. Okay. Supplemental appropriations. Duties of the Board of Finance, and there's actually the Board of Finance shall be empowered to make supplemental appropriations up to and including an amount that cumulatively is equal to 1% approved by the Board of Finance. those which exceed the cumulative 1% of the current year budget, excluding the amount appropriated for the regional school districts, shall be submitted to a special town meeting pursuant to the provisions of section 304B of this charter, and if approval, will be sent to referendum pursuant to section 803 of this charter. Okay.
What's 1% of the current year budget approximately? I'm curious.
$80,000.
Okay.
I mean,
That's not much.
am I wrong, Carol? Because it doesn't include RAM. I always split the town into 3 different buckets. They're all about $4 million. It's $4 million town with all the capital spending. So it's 2.5 regular spending, 1.5 capital spending. Then the Board of Education, the AES board of but 4 million plus, a little bit more, and RAM is 4 million plus a little bit more. And to do this, we would take the RAM portion out, and it's $8 million. Right?
I
So
get it.
so this is a supplemental appropriation. So what did we do? Because now, Carol, I wanna sit there and think about this. Like, we just went on a supplemental appropriation to a town meeting.
Right?
We passed that. We did not go to referendum. Did we?
No, so that was, we voted on that back in June. That was Adrian's proposal that we put the cap on that. That forced us to go directly to referendum. So
No,
it's-
I totally get that, but what I'm after is this section here. This section, supplemental appropriations, as currently written, said that we should have gone to a town meeting and then to
That
referendum.
is correct. You are correct.
So am I saying we made a mistake?
Yes, you are.
Oh. Oh my God. I mean, my whole goal in all of this, honestly, if they're like this whole charter revision, it was an attempt to be more efficient and have less specials in anything, whether it's a special town meeting or special referendum. So we actually have that language in here that is even worse than what Adrian is proposing, which is this next section.
But we didn't take any of that language out either that says it will be sent referendum. We left that in B. So that supplemental appropriation going directly to referendum, we're just bypassing the special town meeting and forcing anything that is that large of an amount to go straight to a referendum. So rather than,
Understood, and I think everybody, including myself, ignored this sentence.
last sentence of that, yeah.
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 Because I was not aware of that. I always thought the town meeting ruled everything, honestly, from this standpoint. And I didn't know that sentence was in there. That's a problem. I mean, listen, it's not as if it's but that's a problem. That's something that this charter commission we should remove that if we're going to do this. I'm just saying, so what it should be is if there is a supplemental appropriation greater than 1%, it should go to the town meeting and be approved or denied by the town meeting and moved on. If it is greater than 2.5% or $200,000, so what we were attempting to do here is say, hey, there's a threshold that the entire town should vote on it, right? Well,
Yep,
this is
yep.
what I thought what we were attempting to do was was make it so that if it's significant enough that the town would go on, and if it was low enough that the town meeting would sit there and approve it. So yeah, this is a problem. And does anybody have a problem if I
Well-
make a motion to strike that language?
You're talking about the language that takes the, under B, that takes it to referendum
Yeah,
and then just leave it to the town meeting, right?
correct. And I'm gonna sit there and make a motion that we strike from section 805 supplemental appropriations, the language, and if approved, will be sent to referendum pursuant to section 803 of this charter. Anyone want to second that?
I will
Alright,
second that.
Okay, all right, but 805B, so you're moving to strike that last sentence. And if approved, will be sent, just from that point on,
Yes,
correct?
just that part, yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to take notes.
That's okay.
Okay, so Jeff moved, and Karen, you seconded, right?
Yes.
Okay, so any further discussion on that, or anybody have a problem like with the thought process on that?
Nope.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Okay. Patty, you were good? Okay, excellent. All right, so now this is where we get to referendum now. So we're gonna go on the, we're adding to section 805B, and we're saying any supplemental appropriation which exceeds or is equal to 2.5% or $200,000, whichever is greater, of the year's current budget, excluding the amount appropriated for the Region 8 Board of Education, approved by the Board of Finance, shall go directly to referendum pursuant to section 803 of this charter. So this is the language where we said there's a threshold that should go to referendum. Okay. Let's go down here. 806 accounting agency. No changes in anything here. We're now down to transfers of power. So section I didn't see anything in this. Okay, so this was a housekeeping issue related to 105K and 105J. So this section shall remain intact except that any references to section 105K and 105J will be removed. Well, we did not put that in here, but that is a legal housekeeping issue that Dennis identified.
Yeah, it's a cosmetic change, essentially.
Yeah. Section 108, review and amendment to the charter. If upon a review, amendments to the town charter are deemed necessary, the Board of Selectmen will appoint a charter revision commission, giving the commission a minimum of 6 months to change to complete. So this was actually added, section 108, review and amendment to the charter. Add a second paragraph to section 108 as follows. If any such review, if after any such review, the Board of Selectmen does vote to appoint a charter revision commission, the board shall give any such commission a minimum of 6 months to submit their draft report to the board. So we voted on that and moved forward.
I modified it slightly simply because the previous language was too vague in terms of saying when the 6-month rule, how far it went, because your charge, it said you used your charge, you had to complete your charge by the end of 6 months. And the thing that you're really charged to do is to submit a draft report, which is this document we're working on now. And if the draft report is approved by the Board of Selectmen, the committee is pretty much done. So that's the first point at which your work could be possibly done. And
That's-
so I changed it to that.
It works because Carol, just so, I mean, this was on your end. The request was if a Board of Selectmen is going to appoint a charter commission, the minimum that the charter commission should have is 6 months. Right?
Yes,
So this
right.
is basically this
it is the same thing.
minimum of 6 months to submit
Yeah.
their draft report.
Yes.
Okay, resignations. This is just a resignation is effective when someone writes the resignation. So this is just a housekeeping issue. To remove said resignation shall become effective upon the acceptance of by a vote of the Board of Selectmen. So it was removal of that sentence.
Correct.
Right, effective date. The charter shall become effective upon the approval of a majority of the electors voting at an election on November 5th, 2024, and in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 99 of the General Statutes as amended, provided, however, that no new provisions of this charter shall be implemented until July 1st, 2025, with the exception of any revisions enacted by the electors on November 5th, 2024 in Chapter 8, Finance and Taxation, and Charter Section 203C, which may be implemented immediately thereafter. Right.
Charter Section 203C applies to the biennial election.
Mhm.
Since you're going to have a biennial election in 2025, people can start getting ready for that earlier in the year. There's all kinds of things that go on in election years, and we didn't want to restrict anybody from partaking of any electoral activities early in the next year, because they may want to get ready for the biennial election in November of 2025. So
Okay.
we can have those things go into effect.
And
The
then
other part, yeah, finance and taxation part, you want that effective right away, so that you can apply it to your next budget, which is
Right.
coming up. You'll be putting together your budget right after the first of the year.
actually October, I think the first date was that we had.
Well,
laid.
you could. That's right. There's
So,
nothing
so
that
it
says
have to
you
go,
can't.
it would have to go into effect. Those sections will have to go into effect in 2024, which is fine.
Right.
Right. Okay,
If they-
so and then these last sections, Dennis, in the section 10-12 transition, these are all transitional sections from previous drafts of the charter. So what we're saying
Previous-
here is section 10-12, 10-13, and 10-14 transactional. These three sections were all transactional at previous times, but are no longer relevant and necessary, and therefore deleted in their entirety. They are preserved in the vault of the town clerk, as all former versions of the town charter are carefully kept and preserved and may be reviewed there. Okay.
Yep. If you want to find out the history, you go to the town clerk.
Okay. So that is that are all of the changes that we have as a board voted on and done. Is there anything anybody's wants to go back or review or has any questions as to what we did or what we should do? All right. Dennis, the minor changes that we asked. So Carol, just so I know she might be away for a second, but when she gets back. So Carol, we had two motions today, right?
Yes,
Okay, can
that
you
is
just
correct.
can you just read those so we're all aware before we vote on?
So you you moved 304G as in golf to remove
Application.
the application for or and just do the participation. Okay.
Yeah.
So you moved, I seconded, that was unanimous, and then we moved in section 802 to remove the word increase in two areas. And then it was just a unanimous consent for the 805, just to fix that, to strike.
Now, and the other one was unanimous consent. This one we voted on. Karen.
Okay, this was, I'm sorry, I have a line, so it was unanimous consent to remove the word increase from 2 areas, and then you moved and Karen seconded 805B for the supplemental appropriation to, will be sent to special town meetings pursuant to the provisions of section 4B of this charter, and stop there. So remove and if approved will be sent to referendum.
So those are the ones that we did today. So Dennis,
Correct.
But
you
also
can,
have wait a minute, one more. There's the one that we spent a lot of time discussing about the 45 days. It's I believe section, wait a minute. Geez. Oh,
it's 404, 404.
no, it's long, it's
It's 404. And it's
4043 was where it started,
Yeah.
because that was if the petition was not legal, and then,
yes, that's you're right, it's 404.
and it's
We
three,
eliminated,
it's 301, 3013, 3013, and what was that number again, Carol? I'm sorry. There it is, 404.
right.
So Dennis,
404.
you're going to get this language here, this language to be consistent between those two sections.
I got it all already.
All right. Okay.
You need a motion to pass the whole thing.
Yes, we need a motion to pass the whole thing, but I want everybody to understand and be on board that these were changes that we did today.
Yep.
I mean, they're not crazy changes, but I just want everybody to be aware that these are things that we did today. Before we pass this, because what you're going to do is you've made those changes, Dennis, and you're going to get those to Carol and to at least to myself, so we can review these one last time before Carol. You're going to publish this on the wall of well, you're not going to publish this on the wall. We're going to take this to our meeting next week for the public.
Right, but I'm gonna,
Well,
once everybody goes through it,
You're
I'm
also-
also gonna send it to the website too.
Go
I
ahead.
mean,
Dennis. Explain to us.
once it's approved, it goes into Carol's office also for review by anybody who comes in and wants to see it starting Monday. So that by the time the public hearing comes around, people will have had an opportunity to read it in the town clerk's office, or maybe she can give copies out. I don't know, but in the notice that we sent to the newspaper, that's going to be published tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow is Friday. Yep, and going to say that this is going to be available in the town office of the town clerk starting Monday.
Okay, and Carol, we'll get this to Eric and to his assistant to get put up on the website?
Yeah.
Okay. So Dennis, you'll have this to us tomorrow morning with those adjustments? Or tonight?
I'll have it 10 minutes, 5 minutes after this meeting's over.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm on top of it.
Okay, so I'll sit there. I'll make a motion that we move the Andover Charter Revision Commission revised draft report of July 11th, 2024 forward for publication to the town residents.
I'll second that.
Okay.
I'll third Karen. I think Karen and
Who's got
Pat.
that? Patty got that one?
All right, Patty got that one.
Right. All right, any discussion on this? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Okay. Okay, is there anything else that any of the members want to discuss related to this before we move on to item 5? Okay. I will stop sharing and let's move on to item 5, public speak. Shannon, you are a public member.
Thank you for all your work. Nothing for my public comment. I'll look forward to getting a copy on Monday. Thanks.
Okay, it will be available on the website tomorrow if you need it. All right. Okay, Karen, why don't you make this motion?
I will make the motion to adjourn.
Patty, you gonna second that? Yes, Patty got it. I know she wants it. I know she wants it.
I do, thank you.
All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Dennis, thank you.
You.
All right, we'll see you guys.
Thank you all. You did a wonderful job on this. It was not easy, but a really nice result. Thank you.
Thank
Real
you.
pleasure to work.
All right,
Good night,
Very
guys.
Good night.
Good night. Enjoy.
I have to stop this. Oh, I have to do it here. Ugh.